By the way,
we had.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Interesting to see now that the new versions that were made out of albums that were made during that time are more raw now. They are more like there's not that plastic sound around anymore, and also that goes for the new version of Does Humor Belong in Music as well.
Yeah,
it's more like
oh
rock
yeah,
and roll.
yeah. It's much fuller, more aggressive, bigger, in your face. You know, however you want to say. Well, there were some other things going on that tour also. Some personnel problems. We had too many singers at first, for one thing. The band for the first couple of weeks of the tour was different than it was from that point on. We had Napoleon Murphy Brock was back in the band in the beginning, and Ray and Ike and myself and Frank. So we had 5 people that could really sing. Well, if you include Frank in there. 4 people who could really sing and Frank. And it was just too much. I mean, so what we did actually was they put me up one inversion higher from all the harmonies that I used to sing. So now instead of a triad with Frank and then Ray and then me, which was the '81 tour, or Ike and Frank and me, it was Frank and Ike and Ray, and I ended up singing an octave higher than Frank's parts all the time. So it was a triad plus an octave. Not that I couldn't do it, but it was just like, why do we need to do this? And in fact, some things I wasn't singing because Nappy was there, or Ray. One of us would have to drop out because it was just too many. But it did, make possible some interesting things vocally from time to time. But there were some problems personnel-wise with. There was some friction with Nappy and some of the other guys, and he ended up leaving. After only, I think, maybe 2 weeks. And then the rest of the tour, just went on with all the same personnel, just without Nappy. And we went to, we toured the States, we toured Europe. That was '84, we did a lot of touring. We did like 2 tours of the States and a tour of Europe. It was a lot of work we did that year.
And the repertory was a little bit different.
Yeah, now that was a problem too, and I remember one night Scott Tunis and I ganged up on Alan in I think it was in Munich. We took him out to one of these big beer halls and just sat him down and said, "Look, Alan, you got to learn some more stuff," because we were getting tired of playing the same stuff all the time. He didn't have enough of the repertoire learned and memorized to enable us to do what we usually did, which was, we would have, by the end of most of the other tours, we would have, I think we had as much as maybe like 200 pieces of music to select from by the end of a tour, memorized, and not just, stupid little songs, but Zappa songs, 200 Zappa things in the memory banks, under the fingers. And that wasn't happening in '84. So Scott and I, like I said, we ganged up on Alan and said, "Look, you got to learn some stuff." And so we kind of prevailed upon him to get some more repertoire going. And towards the end of the tour, it did improve a bit, but that kind of slowed things down a little bit. That was one of the drawbacks of that tour as well.
Why did Frank hire him in the first place?
He was the best guy that came to audition that year.
Yeah, okay.
No other reason than that. That's pretty much what went on at any given time and at any given tour. Who was the best? That's who you go with.
Have you any distinct memories? What were the most challenging things for you to do in Frank's band or in studio sessions? And did you like to do doo-wop as well as other things?
Sure, yeah. I enjoyed that stuff a lot because that's a very strong part of my background. Being from Philadelphia, that's a lot of the these groups on the corner standing around singing harmonies and all that. That was a big part of what was going on in Philadelphia when I grew up. So I loved that stuff, and And of course all the other R&B from other places that was going on at the time too, from New York and Chicago and L.A. and Detroit, and there was a lot of places where there was good music coming out of a lot of places in America at that time. A lot of that style of music. It wasn't just Philadelphia. But it all seemed to gravitate there because that's where Bandstand was, and that's where all the acts went to perform. But as far as challenging stuff with Frank, well, learning things like Black Page on tenor, doing the transcriptions of that and learning it, and Mystery Studio Song, which I played partially on tenor. Drowning Witch. There are 2 bars of music in Drowning Witch that are my favorite Zappa music of all, that nobody has ever heard, but it's just something that he wrote in the second keyboard part for a couple of bars there that I just love, and I would, every time I would sit down to play, and every time I still sit down to play now, I like to play those 2 bars because of the way he constructed his harmonies and melodies is a way that I used to do before I met Frank. And